Do you ever pause and ask yourself if you're truly free? Be honest, don't answer too quickly. You open your eyes in the morning, and before you even breathe deeply, your hand reaches for your phone. You scroll through content aimlessly, looking for anything that distracts you, that gives your mind a quick hit of stimulation. Maybe it's a funny meme, a new post, or a video to silence the early morning boredom. Then comes the ritual, a hot cup of coffee, paired with another short clip or upbeat song. It feels harmless, doesn't it? As you head off to your daily responsibilities, be it work or school, the cycle continues. Podcasts play in the background. Social media notifications light up your screen. And every moment of silence is replaced with noise. But when the world goes quiet, even for a second, what creeps in? A strange discomfort, a subtle emptiness. And what do? You grab your phone again. You reach for the next dopamine fix, chasing comfort like a reflex. Let's be clear, pleasure, in and of itself, is not the enemy. It's a natural part of being human. It helps us survive, motivates us, makes life sweeter. But what if that pleasure, this tool we rely on, starts to control us? What if it morphs into our cage? When the desire to feel good overrides everything else, we unknowingly become prisoners of instant gratification. Almost a century ago, Aldous Huxley saw it coming. While Orwell warned us of tyranny through force in 1984, Huxley envisioned something far more seductive and far more dangerous. He imagined a society where control wouldn't come from brutality, but from comfort. A world where citizens were so immersed in entertainment, so saturated with pleasure, they would never feel the need to rebel. In Huxley's dystopia, chains weren't forged from steel, they were woven from pleasure. The people weren't forced to obey, they simply loved their servitude. So take a look at your world. Look at the society we've built. What do you see? A culture obsessed with escape-consuming entertainment with no boundaries, chasing relief from even the smallest discomfort. But here's the question you need to ask. Is this pursuit of happiness making you free, or is it making you dependent? In this video, we're going to explore a truth that most people are too distracted to see. How modern life uses pleasure not to liberate you, but to keep you docile. How the things you crave might be turning you into something no one wants to admit, a voluntary slave. And if you think you're in full control of your thoughts, habits, and actions, keep watching, because the truth might just shake you. The perfect form of control doesn't need violence. It doesn't require surveillance or threats. All it needs is pleasure, accessible, continuous, and addictively comfortable. When every moment is built around enjoyment, slavery doesn't feel like slavery at all. It feels like freedom, and that is the genius of it. That's exactly what Aldous Huxley envisioned in Brave New World. A reality in which no one asks questions, because no one feels the need to. A life where searching for truth is replaced with a constant stream of trivial, entertaining noise. Where pleasure is not a gift, it's an obligation. A society where discomfort is the ultimate sin. In that imagined world, people are trained from birth to run from pain. Any uncomfortable emotion, any existential doubt eliminated instantly with a dose of soma, the dream drug that kept everyone happy, numb, and loyal. Now, ask yourself, is this fiction, or is it your life? But is that world really just fiction? Think deeply. Consider your own daily routine. When you feel bored, lonely, anxious, or even slightly frustrated, what's your first instinct? Do you pause and explore what you're feeling? Or do you instinctively reach for the nearest distraction? A social media scroll, a binge-worthy series, a snack, a drink, a shopping app, casual sex, pornography, video games. The list of distractions is endless. We live in an era where any trace of discomfort is swiftly erased with just a tap, a click, or a swipe. You never have to reflect, never have to sit in silence. Just one more dose of pleasure and the feeling disappears. For a moment, and here's the illusion, it feels like a choice. No one is holding you hostage. No one is forcing you to scroll TikTok for hours or waste your time comparing your life to strangers on Instagram. No one is making you chase pleasure. So why is it so hard to stop? That question holds the key. It's not about force, it's about conditioning. Over time, your brain is trained to seek relief from even the smallest tension through immediate gratification. You associate every difficult feeling with something pleasurable, something that makes it go away. And slowly, without noticing, you lose the capacity to be alone with your own thoughts. You become unable to face stillness. You fear introspection. Silence becomes unbearable. Reflection becomes too heavy. And that's exactly what Huxley predicted. Not a population enslaved by punishment, but a population addicted to comfort. A society of people smiling while shackled by invisible chains. So why does this happen? Why does a culture built around pleasure lead to passivity? Why does it discourage you from thinking deeply, questioning reality, or facing pain? This is what we will explore next. Before we continue, if this message is resonating with you, take a moment right now to like the video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. These simple actions help keep these reflections alive and shared with others who are waking up just like you. Now, let's return to that critical question. Why is it so difficult to stop? Even when you know you should be focusing, being productive, creating something meaningful, your hand glides unconsciously to your phone. Your brain begs for a new notification, another video, a fresh stimulus. This isn't random. It's programming. From the very start of our lives, we are taught to avoid discomfort at all costs. Schools teach us not to think, but to memorize. Work environments reward production, not reflection. Entertainment is available every second, ensuring we're never alone with our thoughts long enough to question the structure we live in. The outcome: a society where the greatest threat isn't authoritarian control, but apathy. Where people are no longer interested in freedom because they've forgotten what it feels like to be free. Huxley grasped this danger more deeply than anyone. In Brave New World, repression wasn't required because people had been molded to love their servitude. From infancy, they were trained through sleep conditioning known as hypnopedia. Repetitive messages whispered in their ears during unconscious hours shaped their values, desires, and beliefs without their knowledge. Phrases like "everyone belongs to everyone" and "a gram of soma solves everything" were repeated so often that they became truth. These mental loops ensured that no one would ever question the system because they didn't even realize there was a system. They grew up believing that true happiness was found in conformity, that peace meant avoiding complexity, that pain had no place in a fulfilled life. And that's where the danger lies. In our world, hypnopedia has been replaced by something more subtle, yet equally powerful. The repetition comes through social media, through algorithmic content, through ads, trends, and the flood of artificial stimulation that keeps us from ever thinking for ourselves. Every time you get a notification, your brain rewards you. A little burst of dopamine. Every time a short video gives you a dose of effortless content, you grow more dependent on convenience. And every time you get validation for conforming through likes, shares, or surface-level praise, you're being conditioned. You're learning that this is the correct path, that thinking is unnecessary, that silence is uncomfortable, that reflection is a waste of time. The consequence: an entire generation slowly losing the ability to engage in deep thought. People who can't sit still for 5 minutes without checking their phones. People who avoid any emotion that takes effort to understand. People who view discomfort not as a part of growth but as something to be medicated, distracted from, or numbed. This is not a coincidence. It's not a glitch in the system, it is the system. We no longer need totalitarian regimes to suppress freedom. Today, people voluntarily surrender their ability to think critically. They numb themselves so efficiently that the very desire for freedom fades. And that's the ultimate success of control: not to imprison bodies, but to seduce minds. Yet, this retreat from discomfort comes at a hidden cost. When you constantly avoid struggle, you become more vulnerable, more fragile, easier to manipulate. And the worst part, you don't even realize it's happening. Because while you're chasing one more dopamine hit, something inside you is slowly fading. Your resilience, your self-awareness, your mental autonomy. You begin to outsource your thoughts. You let trending opinions guide your beliefs. You mistake distraction for peace. You live in a cycle of constant pleasure, unaware that you're growing weaker with every indulgence. But how exactly does this culture of comfort turn us into passive, compliant beings? What happens when a society tries to eliminate all pain, all challenge, all discomfort? That's what we'll uncover in the next section. Imagine a world without pain. No sadness, no frustration, no loss, no fear. On the surface, it sounds perfect, a paradise. But look deeper. What happens to a person who never has to face difficulty, who never learns to endure discomfort? What becomes of a culture where hardship is considered a flaw to be fixed, not a natural part of life? The answer is simple. That person becomes fragile. That society becomes weak. Aldous Huxley understood this psychological trap with disturbing clarity. In Brave New World, happiness was not earned, it was manufactured. Every undesirable emotion was neutralized with some of the drug that offered perfect relief. No hangovers, no risks, just artificial peace. But beneath this so-called happiness was a population emotionally paralyzed. People who had lost the capacity to handle pain, who couldn't sit with their own thoughts, who feared introspection more than death. Every unpleasant emotion was seen as a disease, every uncomfortable idea as a threat. Life became a carefully curated string of shallow pleasure, sex, entertainment, consumerism offered as substitutes for purpose, meaning, or growth. Sound familiar? In today's world, we may not swallow soma pills, but we consume its digital equivalents every day. Social media that provides instant validation, streaming platforms that prevent silence, dating apps that remove the sting of rejection, food engineered for pleasure, not nourishment, ads tailored to your impulses before you're even aware of them. These modern drugs eliminate the need to think, the need to grow, the need to reflect. But what happens to people who live like this for years, decades? They become emotionally dependent, incapable of self-regulation, needing a constant stream of stimulation just to feel okay. And when any real challenge arrives, loss, conflict, failure, they collapse. They've never built the mental muscles required to face life with courage. Now, here's the real danger. Such people are easy to control. A society that knows how to endure hardship cannot be ruled easily. But a society trained to avoid discomfort at all costs, that society will trade freedom for comfort without blinking. And that is how the illusion of freedom becomes your prison. What appears to be a liberation, this ability to avoid all suffering, is in truth the foundation of a psychological cage. Because once comfort becomes your highest priority, anything that threatens it becomes your enemy, even if it's the truth. But there's a way out. To truly escape this cycle of instant gratification and mental dependence, we must shift our focus. We must learn to see the difference between pleasure and purpose. Because while pleasure can be a trap, purpose can be a path to true freedom. Let's ask the most important question. What are you actually seeking in your life? Do you crave happiness, or do you crave meaning? Are you chasing dopamine or building a legacy? Society tells you happiness is the ultimate goal. But what does it really offer as happiness? A flood of superficial rewards, a never-ending sequence of momentary highs, likes, views, shopping sprees, one-night stands, sugary foods, mindless series. All of them give you a spike of sensation, and then leave you emptier than before. And that emptiness is the key. Pleasure is always short-lived. It's always asking for more. Once it fades, the void returns and you go back searching for another hit, another scroll, another video, another distraction. Now think about the moments that shaped who you are. Were they filled with comfort, or were they born out of difficulty, out of challenge, pain, and perseverance? The Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of a concentration camp, wrote a powerful truth in man's search for meaning. Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. Frankl observed that even in the darkest of places, those who had a reason to live something deeper than pleasure were the ones who endured. They were the ones who stayed sane while everything else fell apart. That's the paradox we face today. The more we chase comfort, the weaker we become. The more we pursue immediate happiness, the more lost we feel. But when we set our sights on something greater, on purpose, we begin to build inner strength. Purpose doesn't vanish once the thrill fades. It isn't dependent on validation. It doesn't demand constant stimulation. Instead, it gives you direction. It makes you resilient. It becomes the compass that guides you through storms. And that's exactly why modern life is designed to distract you from it. Because purpose isn't convenient. It requires time, effort, focus, and a willingness to feel discomfort. It demands patience. It asks you to grow through pain. And most importantly, it makes you independent. A person who lives with purpose cannot be manipulated by shallow promises or empty pleasure. They are not seduced by trends or fooled by viral illusions. They are grounded in something much deeper, and that makes them dangerous to a system that thrives on emotional dependency. So if you're feeling lost, if you've been wondering why nothing ever seems to satisfy you, no matter how much you consume, it may be time to stop adding more. Maybe it's not about what you need to gain. Maybe it's about what you need to let go. Instead of seeking more pleasure, maybe it's time to remove the noise. Instead of chasing more distractions, maybe it's time to get quiet and ask yourself, what really matters to me? What wakes me up in the morning, not because I have to, but because I want to? What am I building? What will remain when the likes and applause fade? The answers to these questions are not easy, but they are the only answers that can lead to freedom. Now, how do we take that next step? How do we break the pattern and reclaim authority over our inner world? That's what we'll uncover in the next part. Now that you understand how the relentless pursuit of pleasure can silently enslave your mind, the question becomes urgent. How do you break free? How do you reclaim sovereignty over your inner life in a world meticulously designed to keep you addicted, distracted, and emotionally dependent? The truth is, it won't be easy. You're up against a system that was built to keep you trapped. It doesn't want you to pause. It doesn't want you to think. It wants you constantly reaching, tapping, watching, scrolling, buying, consuming. Not because you're forced to, but because you've been trained to believe it's your choice. But there's a way out, and it begins with a decision. Not a grand gesture or a dramatic moment, but a simple, silent realization. You've been living inside someone else's design, and now it's time to build your own. The first step is what we call strategic deprivation. It's not about becoming a monk or rejecting all joy. It's about consciously limiting your exposure to high-intensity, addictive stimuli that override your brain's natural balance. When you take a break from social media, stop eating ultra-processed food, or step away from binge entertainment, something remarkable starts to happen. Your mind clears, the fog lifts, and for the first time in a long time, your senses begin to recalibrate. You start to enjoy the small things again: a walk, a book, a quiet conversation. You begin to notice how dependent you had become on artificial highs to feel alive. And as your brain resets, your desire for cheap pleasure begins to fade. The second step is to rebuild your tolerance for discomfort. This may sound unpleasant, but it's the foundation of mental strength. You must relearn how to sit with yourself, to feel boredom, frustration, restlessness, and not immediately run from them. Let them rise. Let them sit. Let them pass. This is how to train your mind to become resilient again. In the beginning, it will feel impossible. Your brain will protest. It will demand more stimulation. But if you persist, something powerful happens. You realize that discomfort doesn't destroy you. In fact, it makes you stronger. Silence becomes bearable. Stillness becomes sacred. And discomfort becomes a teacher. The third step is cultivating critical thinking, one of the most feared and underused abilities in our current age. Ask yourself uncomfortable questions. Why do I feel the need to escape my mind all the time? Who profits from my addiction to stimulation? What could I be accomplishing if I weren't trapped in this cycle? Asking these questions won't give you instant peace, but they will open your eyes. They will help you understand that many of your beliefs, behaviors, and habits weren't freely chosen, they were programmed. And only by questioning can you begin to rewrite them. The fourth step, perhaps the most transformative of all, is to replace pleasure with purpose. As we've already seen, pleasure fades. It's fleeting, but purpose endures. It strengthens you over time. It gives weight and direction to your existence. So take the time to reflect. What truly matters to you? What legacy do you want to leave behind? What kind of person do you want to become when no one's watching? Answering these questions will take more than a moment. It will require soul-searching, honesty, courage, but it's in those difficult answers that your true freedom lies. Yet even if you manage to take all these steps, even if you start changing your life, one thing remains inevitable. The world around you won't change with you. And that's where the final challenge begins. When you start walking a new path, you become a mirror for those still caught in the cycle. And not everyone wants to see that reflection. And when that shift happens, when you begin to break free, people will notice. Maybe not with words, maybe not even consciously, but something about you will begin to make others uncomfortable. Some will admire you. They'll feel inspired by your strength, your discipline, your refusal to play the same game. Others, however, will reject you, not because you've harmed them, but because your transformation shines a light on what they've been trying to avoid within themselves. Your evolution becomes a silent provocation. Suddenly, your presence makes them feel seen in ways they were never ready for. Your clarity becomes their discomfort. Your purpose becomes their mirror. And this is where your courage will be tested most. Because when you rise above the noise, you threaten the illusion that others depend on. When you choose to question the system, you expose its fragility not just to yourself, but to everyone still living inside it. Some people will try to pull you back. They'll tell you you're overthinking, that life is meant to be easy, to be enjoyed without so much reflection, that there's nothing wrong with indulging, with escaping, with staying distracted. And in those moments, you'll need to remember, you're not crazy for wanting something deeper. You're not strange for choosing purpose over pleasure. You're not wrong for saying no to a lifestyle that numbs instead of nourishes. You are awakening, and that process will be lonely at times, because true freedom always is. It requires walking away from the crowd. It means leaving behind the comfort of belonging to something shallow in order to build something meaningful alone, if necessary. But now, you know the truth. You've seen the pattern. You've understood the trap. And with that awareness comes responsibility. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you go back to your old patterns, pretending you never saw the cage? Or will you move forward uncertain, maybe scared but aware and alive? Breaking free from this system demands more than just willpower. It requires discipline, patience, repetition, and above all, vision. You'll have to swim against the current of a world that celebrates distraction and mocks depth. But the reward is priceless. Your mind, your freedom, your power. Because when you stop numbing yourself, you begin to feel again. When you stop distracting yourself, you begin to see. And when you begin to see, you become aware of just how many people are still asleep. It's not your job to wake them, but by waking yourself, you become a beacon. And yes, some will reject you, some will leave, some will be angry, but others will follow. Others will hear your voice and see their own truth reflected back. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Will you stay inside the cycle, or will you rise above it? Have you ever felt stuck in this loop of distraction and instant gratification? Have you noticed how pleasure is used to control, not liberate? Leave a comment below. Share your story, your questions, your awakening, because questioning is the first step to freedom. And if this video opened your eyes even a little, then don't keep it to yourself. Click like, hit subscribe, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. This journey isn't over. In fact, it's only just beginning. Here, we don't just watch content, we challenge it. We reflect, we awaken, and together, we uncover the truths that most would rather avoid. I'll see you in the next video.